and I'm the product.
Yeah.
And I realize that in many ways there's pros and cons of being the product yourself.
Welcome to the Truly Social podcast, recorded in our office studio, downtown Toronto, pretty much the only part of the province of Ontario who did not vote for Doug Ford, otherwise known as the brother of the crack-smoking ex-mayor, or Trump Light. But don't judge us because it's also where Samantha Bee and Will Arnett were raised, so we have a sense of humor about all of it.
Well, there you go. Of course, every 2 weeks we deep dive into the topic of all things social. Unless you think we are talking about social media, we are not. We come from a perspective that all things are social, or as I like to say, social is an approach, not a tool. We aim to tackle the subjects that connect people to people, people to brands, brands to brands, and bots to, well, everything. We're on a mission to get social back on track. And who the heck are we? I'm Tara Hunt.
And I'm Carlos Pacheco.
And this is Truly Social.
All right, so we're back with a new Truly Social podcast. I'm Carlos Pacheco from Truly Social.
And I'm Tara Hunt from Truly Social. We have a special guest here today. Want to introduce yourself?
Hi from the future. I'm so happy to be on Truly Social. And I'm Nguyen. I'm from Australia, so come back to the past to hang out with Tara and Carlos. Did you like that? Did you like that?
Yeah.
And I love that they took me to eat fried chicken because it's my thing, but I'm really known for my videos on particularly LinkedIn lately.
Yes, actually, if you watched my video last week, you will have seen String. If you haven't, go check it out after this podcast because you actually get to see her face. And we will have a link to her LinkedIn profile in the show notes. But I discovered String maybe about a year ago, almost a year ago.
It's less than a year ago.
Less than a year.
Oh. Wow. Like it's like September or something like that I blew up on LinkedIn and since then I went from 900 to 20,000.
It's just crazy. But I just, you'll see why when you see her videos, why she's grown so fast. It's no witchery or trickery or click fraud or any of that. Her videos are super engaging. She approaches very professional subjects in a really wonderful humanistic manner. And her interviews are fun to watch. She's really great at engaging people in her interviews and she brings out the best in them. So check that out. But today we're going to be talking with String about like more general stuff, a little bit of LinkedIn, but kind of more general stuff.
Super excited to geek out with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're really excited that she came to Toronto to visit. You've been on a bit of a whirlwind tour. Tell us where you've gone.
Oh man, so I believe in something that every place have their own fried chicken stories. But I'm also so surprised how much like people resonated with fried chicken. And I'm not surprised. Vegans don't like me because they can't be part of this conversation. But I reckon tofu fried chicken could be the next thing.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
False fried chicken. Anyway, what I've been, if I work backwards, Toronto, this is my first time in Toronto and it feels like home, so I'm a little bit homesick. And the weather doesn't help as well because it reminds me of Melbourne. At the moment it's rainy. I just came back from like Chicago, San Francisco, New York, Dallas, and if we go track to Asia, Austin, South by Southwest, Singapore, Thailand, Ho Chi Minh City, and then I'm going back to Asia after Toronto now.
Oh, wow, you're almost like a travel YouTuber at this point, a travel creator.
You know, the customs don't like me because I confuse them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tell your custom story because it's funny and it kind of resonates with this idea that the world still doesn't understand what it means to be a creator. Yeah,
look, it's because if you travel too much, they think you're a risk, and then it's like a little Asian girl, and it's like, how much money do you make? It's like, do you have? What they ask me is like, is it, why do you travel so much? It's like, I just like eating fried chicken, but I can't say that because then I throw them off. I had to learn not to say that, and I was just like, I have a lot of friends around the world. What do you mean? Like, how do you meet these friends? It's like online. You mean like a dating site?
You mean like Facebook?
It's like they don't believe like online friends could be real friends.
Yeah.
And which could be understandable because most people don't they're kind of telling me I'm not the normal, but it's actually I'm the new normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And remote working is going to be higher. Internet has made it super possible for a person like me to create and make a living out of this as well. So it's like, so I should just say I'm a YouTuber from now. I'm going to test this theory out. It's like I'm a YouTuber because everyone understands a YouTuber can make a living out of YouTube. But no one has heard of like a LinkedIn YouTuber. It's like, oh, you're like a super niche creator. It's like, how do you make money out of this? It's like, are you working? It's like, and I'm like, hey, I know the rules. You can't work while you're technically on holiday. It's because visa-wise that they think it's, or Americans would say, you want to live here, don't you? Because I come back often. So I had to like probably shift my visa to suit my nature of going in and out.
Yeah, it's really confusing, I think, for a lot of people, especially people that don't spend a lot of time online, that A, yes, you can have connections and friends and you're staying with people all over the world, and B, that you make a living online, but you're not traveling to that country to do business per se, like direct business, which would be against the visa, that you're going to meet with business contacts more than anything.
Well, it's interesting, like you could go for conferences and stuff like that, and I probably should just say I'm here for a conference.
Yeah.
But if you stay over too long, they looks like suspicious behavior. And I'm just like, hey man, I just happen to have a very vibrant community around the world that I could tap into, and those are two things that I'm really good at, and I just learned how to monetize it, but in a different kind of thing. Create and network.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of the monetization, you are making a living by doing this sort of crazy dream work online. How did you get there?
I have to ask for it.
Okay.
It's true because I did see, I think you posted like an Instagram picture of like sort of this diagram as how do you want to work with me, and sort of like, do you have money? Yes, no. And that's the first one, because the thing is, it's true. Everybody sort of like jumps into this whole like, oh, I can just talk to her for free and I'll get advice.
Oh,
and
pick the brain
type of situation. That's like, no, you want to talk to me. I do this for a living. You have to pay me. So.
Oh, I'm a practitioner, and people think that like I do this as a hobby. It's no, I'd make a living out of it, and I optimized everything that I learned so then business could like tap into it. So I save people time, and because of that mindset, I learned how to like filter people really quickly. And if they said they want to open collaboration, it's like, how can we grow together? If you do collaboration, the true value of collaboration is like growing together. Or because you want to build up that relationship. So you had to be, and time is something that we don't have anymore, right? So it's like something that I've been very conscious of, and I'm very goal driven. It's like, I love hanging out with these people? Do I want to like hang out with them in 2 years' time? So time for me is something that is a way of like building and nurturing these relationships, because I believe in relationships. And video happens to be the other way, where it's like more scalable of sharing messages in a more scalable way. And I just have a more good personality that could jump in front of the camera.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talked about in the video was your face is your most valuable asset.
Well, I just say your face is your brand.
Your face is your brand, yeah.
Yes.
And because you put your face on camera, then now when you are walking down the street in Toronto or in LA or whatever, and somebody's seen your video, they will recognize you, feel like they know you, and be able to walk up to you and introduce themselves. Like, it's a really intimate thing.
They don't even introduce themselves sometimes. They rock up to me and talk to me as if I'm their friend. So that's and I probably give off that feeling. It's like, hey, I'm super accessible.
Yeah.
And I don't mind that. Fried chicken has made me super relatable.
Yes.
And I realize that as well. So I have to, and then I think people get upset that I don't remember the names. Like, but if you don't message me or contribute to my conversations, I'm sorry, my brain is human. I'm like a fishbowl brain sometimes, or fish, a goldfish brain. So you have to be constantly on my feet to remember you and things like that. Not as an offense to you, it's just, we only have so much bandwidth.
Well, your videos scale, but you don't scale.
Exactly.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. And I'm the product.
Yeah.
And I realize that in many ways there's pros and cons of being the product yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm sort of experiencing this with building Truly Social, the business, because we get a lot of business because of my videos and because of me being out there doing the thought leadership stuff. But I can't do all the work that comes through our doors. Like, I can oversee it, but I've gotten to the point where I don't have time enough in the day to work on every little thing on every little project every day. So when I get a client that emails me and says, oh, that post that you just put up, can you take it down or do something else with it? Or can you, I just put a post up, can you retweet it? I'm not doing that day-to-day work anymore, and I don't know what they're talking about. So because they hired me because of the videos, I think they just assume that I'm doing all of it. And so it's starting to, I want to actually now get to the point where I put more of the team that is working at Truly Social on video so people understand and get to know them and feel trust with them now too.
You have to show your minions.
Yeah. and if any of the teams listening, you guys aren't my minions, you are my angels.
My unicorns.
My unicorns.
The funny thing is, like, you say unicorns, I say minions because it's yellow.
Yeah, it's yellow. It's true. It's true. I do have like a minion yellow thing.
Come on, minions have their own movie.
There you go. No, they're amazing. My staff. But yeah, we need to get their faces out there, to your point, because that's the limit of the personal brand. It's you personally do not scale.
Well, I have to say, like, I really love your mural thing because you get to see the team and show their personalities and everything. It has like this really cool Arrested Development kind of style to it. And I thought that was like super cute to watch.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we had a lot of fun making that. And if you are listening and you haven't seen the mural video, it's on our Truly Social YouTube channel, also on our LinkedIn feed. But it was a lot of fun to make, and it was very much inspired by Arrested Development.
As a friend said, that's that video is Soltara, basically. In terms of the comedy and the way that turned out.
Yeah, it shows your personality really well, and I think that if I had to use that as a case study of how to show company culture, that's definitely it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when we were writing the lines, we were making sure that everybody's personality came through in their roles that we had them in. Like, even Carlos is the grumpy guy. And it's kind of true. He's very much like can we get back to work? Sort of, he's not grumpy, but he does have a lot more dad kind of approach.
You have to do dad gifs.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Like, and Carlos was showing me all these gifs from the Arrested Development, and then I showed him Giphy Cam, and now I'm going to expect amazing GIF, on point GIF culture.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try to get my GIF game
on. Yeah, absolutely. So we were also talking a little bit before about the rising importance of eye candy for brands. And I just want to, this isn't a very elegant segue, but I do want to segue into that conversation a little bit, because we wanted to talk about, like, what's the big new up and coming thing? A lot of people ask that question. And my answer was like more of this visual culture, but you brought up this really great idea, like, of eye candy. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So I believe there's like when you have I think a little radar. What do you call this? A meter. And the meter is like, there's always two types of content, or actually three. One is like eye candy, like Kim Kardashian. She's like a strong visual persona, where her ass is a candy, her face is a candy.
But it's probably actually candy with her ass.
And even her entertainment value. That's the value that they provide is entertainment. So when you consume it, you get all the sugar rush from the eyes, from the way you consume it. So people get entertained by watching her and her family. And then the other side, we have what I call substance content, where businesses usually lies into this place. Gary Vee is a good example. Tony Robbins is a good example, where they provide you nourishment for you to grow your knowledge, your brain, your heart, motivate your heart. Tony Robbins is a good motivator, and your hip pocket. So I call those like substance. But there's very few people that were able to combine what I call, if you combine eye candy and substance, then you have the sweet spot. But I love eye candy because, like, it's always like better to be the opposite, or like bring a little opposite into your content.
Right.
So that's where you get the sweet spot. So a lot of like dry content is coming from B2B. They think they can't provide value in entertainment. But you have to, like, in terms of like the game of attention economy, you need to have candy into your substance content, like your B2B content. And I think B2B content is going to shift into towards like they have to think about how do they provide value and entertain at the same time. And those are ones who do will be more memorable. And it's a way of like seeding messages, seeding thoughts, seeding key like visuals as well. Like McDonald's has a strong visual.
Yeah.
Imagine Ronald McDonald talking about business and how to grow franchises.
You know, I think a lot of people would be interested in that. I mean, there was the movie a few years back with, was it Michael Keaton? Who was the one that was supposed to be about the guy who like expanded McDonald's?
Basically, the one who did the Croc. Movie,
he's a terrible guy, but like there were a lot of valuable business lessons, and it did really well because of that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially with a big brand like McDonald's, people want to know like, how do I achieve the same thing?
But
go ahead.
It goes and it brings back sort of like an old sort of case study that we seem to bring back in the world of marketing is the will it blend, right? And it's sort of like, you know, the traditional blender company would have just put like a video up of like, this is how things work, right? Or, you know, would have done a flashy ad, but it's like they did an entertaining video that it was visually, you know, impressive because they were doing stuff that technology, you know, for those who don't remember this, is they would, you know, release a video every couple of months with like, oh, the new iPhone's out. Let's see if it's going to blend. And then they put it into the blender and they blend it to dust. And then it would show that the blender's very strong, that can blend steel and aluminum and still work. And, you know, it was, you know, eye candy and it was instructional at the same time, right? So it's exactly right.
Yeah, they had a very I think they were even more frequent than that because we remember that was their viral breakout, but they had been doing those videos for years where they would blend hockey sticks and golf balls and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I love the story behind it. Do you know Will It Blend?
No, I don't.
So Will It Blend, it was a video series before there were really video series that was released by Blendtech, a blender company in the US. And it was their CEO, and the background was like this great sort of marquee that said, Will It Blend? It looked like kind of like a 50s talk show or game show backdrop. And he would come on, he would be like, golf balls are great. You know, golfing is a great hobby and we love it and da-da-da. And I've got some golf balls here. Would you like to know, will it blend? And then this cute music would come on and then it would come in and then he would throw it in the blender and crazy stuff would ensue. Like some of the things they blended would basically be like, don't try this at home because it's like a little dangerous. But the more sensational they blended, the more views, of course, they got. And people started discovering them. And what was really cool about their story, there's two things. Number one, when they went in to do these videos, they were up against really stiff competition from the Vitamix, which was like the cool blender. And they were just like this little family-owned blender company, and they really had no budget for marketing. And number two, they used to do this thing on Friday afternoons. They would like, you know, basically like we do a happy hour, they'd be like, let's blend some crazy shit. And so they were doing this in the back room anyways with the CEO, who's like the family guy that owns it. And somebody, I think at one point, put two and two together, like, we can't outspend Vitamix in advertising, but this is like really fun. Maybe we should there's this YouTube platform, and this is like way back in 2006, 2007. There's this fun YouTube platform. It's free. Like, why not? And they like put together the set. I guess the set cost them like $50 or like, it wasn't very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's a complete fraction of what
exactly
a
production
traditional production cost.
And they just started courting those crazy things and maybe writing a little bit of a script for him to introduce it and started just putting them up online, and they blew up and they became their #1 marketing tool, which was like just a cool story of how they are engaging.
Virgin has a really cool safety video.
Oh yeah.
They do the music videos, and they also hire other celebrities to do the music videos as well. So I think that's really cool. Like they did a whole music video of like how to do safety into it, and I thought that was super entertaining.
Yeah, and well, Air New Zealand had done some fun ones too. They're a fun brand as far as a travel brand goes. They did one with like Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's been some really good examples of those blending, like you said. The
candy?
Yeah, the candy with the substance. Like, this is a useful thing. We call it edutainment, where it's like entertaining and educational all at once. And it's super, super effective if done right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of eye candy, one of the eye candy platforms is Instagram. And this is one of the areas in which I think I'm seeing more and more brands get better at creating entertaining and useful content, especially through things like Instagram stories. And, I was never really a Snapchat person, other than I love the filters.
The filters are the best.
Yeah. But once Instagram stories came along, I started to really understand the effectiveness of them, where you could create content, like create that story that would disappear and then another story could come up the next day or the day after that, and that you could use both a combination of images as well as like illustrations and fun video to tell that story of something that is happening.
What I feel like what Instagram Stories has successfully done by copying, Snapchat is sort of like transfer the original feeling of the feed on Facebook to video. And it's sort of like, instead of like, looking at that feed on Facebook of people uploading a bunch of stuff, now it's a feed of video that just keeps going, and you can just keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling. And now it's video, and there's no interruptions in between. Well, there's little interruptions in between, although I fully expect it's going to get more and more interrupted as time goes. But, the thing is, it's a completely new format. So the companies that are using it need to adapt to it and not sort of put into Instagram stories what they're already doing on TV type of situation, right? Which was easier to do in the world of YouTube, in the world of in sort of desktop publishing, or like online on a desktop. But on mobile, you really need to create that content that's super bespoke to the platform. And Instagram Stories is sort of like, you cannot put in a TV ad in this space. It'll just be, people will just like stop watching you. You need to create original content here, which is sort of like, what these platforms has done is sort of like create a new way of production, a new way of telling a story, and not a tacked on way. And, brands are learning to be much more creative in this space, and maybe being a little bit more free flowing, a little bit easier to sort of, they're not as attached to the brand messaging and all that sort of stuff that, sometimes when they do on TV ads that are like, oh, this needs to do exactly this, needs to tell people to sell and all that sort of stuff, right, that it doesn't need to happen on Instagram. So it allows them to be a little bit more creative.
Well, it's an engagement platform. And we talked about this earlier too, the shift from thinking about these platforms as yet another broadcast tool, that one-way message, to being about engagement.
Oh, I actually think when you have a really active community, it's real-time marketing. So if you're pushing, you could always test out key messaging before you build up the momentum. You actually have to tell them beforehand, and if they like it or resonate with it, they'll tell you they like it.
Yeah.
So it's a great tool of like just have real-time engagement with them, because they will tell you if they like it or dislike it.
Yeah.
And they have like a more interactive tools. It's like yes, no's in the poll.
Yeah, they're all those great sliders and the polls and stuff like that make for really nice like two-way engagement.
What I find that's really fascinating about this platform is that it allows brands to sort of really experiment, right? And really like try new ways of messaging that, you know, you think of like the horror stories of campaigns that get launched that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in media buys, in production, and then when it hits the airwaves, everybody hates it. And there's backlash. And Pepsi's the great example, right? And it's sort of like, well, why didn't you try this online at first? Or, you know, with a very simple same thing online. And, you know, it would have cost you, you know, a fraction of that. And then you would have learned what they liked and what they didn't like. And then you would have created that TV ad, right? Yeah. So at a TV campaign. And it's sort of like, it brings it back to that idea of what we're seeing in terms of companies that are born on digital, right? Mm-hmm. They build their knowledge about their audience. You know, you think of like, Allbirds, which is a shoes that I really love. I've been wearing them nonstop. Wearing right now. Yeah, exactly. I've been wearing them nonstop for the past 6 months. But I just saw today that they're opening a shop. I know that they have a shop in LA and stuff like that, but I just saw that they're opening a shop in Toronto, right?
Are you super excited?
They've been, by the way, they've been in Nordstrom for a long time.
Not in Canada.
Yeah. No, they're I walked by them.
Yes. As of a month ago. Oh. That's the point. The point is they were born online, right, and they're all coming to retail now, right? And it's sort of that thing where they used online to really understand their customer base and really get that data. And then now they're sort of expanding beyond it. And it's what we're talking about like the Caspers and all those new retail sort of companies that are learning from their online community what they want, where they live, all that sort of stuff, and all that data that's really important. And, you know, shaping their messaging around that, as opposed to, we're going to launch straight out of the bat with this branding and you're going to have to like this.
Yeah. Where everything's done in a boardroom with a very narrow focus, like with a group that it's almost, it's this snobbiness that happens that it's like, we know better, and that doesn't fly.
Well, you have to validate it.
Yeah.
And social media is a great tool just to validate something really quickly. I think a lot of people don't put that as part of their process, or they use marketing as a last minute tool when they should have marketing as part of the conversation at the start, because they have data that you could back up really quickly.
I hate that. I hate that whole thing. Like, we have this product. Now, can you go market it for us? It's like, who's your audience? Well, you need to validate it. You need to figure it out, marketing. And it's like, well, didn't you know who the audience was before you made that product? Like, it's just so like, what? It just drives me nuts. It's my biggest pet peeve, is like that people spend all this money and time putting something together, and then they still don't know who the audience is, and now they've handed it to you, and they want you to be like this magic bullet that all of a sudden gets it to market, but they still don't even know what their market is.
Marketing is interesting, is that it shows you what does well and what doesn't do well. It shows you the holes really quickly. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think marketing is like a tool to promote. Yeah. And you either want to like create inbound or outbound, and then that's already like, you know, at least who your type of messaging that you want to create as well.
Yeah, well, it's, I always say like at least 75% of marketing is about listening. And, you know, our process when we work with a client, sit down and they're like, okay, can you market this? And we're like, well, if you don't already know who your audience is, you don't already have this understanding, and you haven't already built this community around your product or what you're doing, that's our first step. And they're always kind of like a little disappointed, like, oh, but we want you to just start to push the message out. It's like, no, our first part of this process is listening, and then figuring out where people are, since you don't already have them gathered around your product, and like what's going to appeal, and that's going to take some time. And then we listen first, and then we start talking. And it's like there's an impatience that happens, but it really needs to be like more drilled in to more brands that marketing is listening first and foremost, and then it's about pushing.
And don't bring you in the last 2 weeks or something.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And then expect to be like, okay, now sell. And, you know, you have 6 months to like sell 1 million units. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
They probably think you're Kickstarter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but even like Kickstarter. Oh, I remember when Kickstarter was like really popular, right? It's not gone away, but at one point it seemed to be like everybody's marketing plan.
You know, I have this joke. I have a theory. Like, you know how China always takes something from Kickstarter and then they copy it or duplicate it. So if you want a cheap version of an R&D, have a fake Kickstarter campaign and watch the Chinese optimize your product for you.
There you go. That's awesome. There you go. Marketing strategy 101.
That's a growth hacker tip, isn't it?
Growth hack. Yeah,
I probably should create a viral video of that. And it's like, let's see if this actually happens.
Awesome. Well, I think that might be a great tip to end this week's show on. Thank you so much, String, for coming and visiting us and sitting in our little escape pod.
Just like your video, you're our first guest on our podcast. So.
Oh, I'm the first of everything. I like first. I like this.
Yeah.
So we're going to end this week, as usual, with our Truly Social Heroes. And as our guests, String, tell us who you consider to be a truly social hero.
Oh, I really love this musician. I've been following for years. His name is Odyssey. He's, has an interesting background. He's a rapper, but doesn't swear.
Wow.
Because he said something to me once. He did it as a way to become more open to different families and to the younger generations, because he wants families to listen to him over time. So he builds up a sustainable business and a personal brand, but also he does social media, like one of the cleanest Instagram and Instagram stories as well.
That's very cool.
And where do he's just under Odyssey?
Yeah, ODDISEE.
Okay. Odyssey spelled a little bit different.
Yeah.
So my truly social hero this week, and I think many people's truly social hero, is Ryan Reynolds and the Deadpool movie. Now, I mean, I'm not sure how, we're going to go definitely see the movie. I am super excited about it. We loved the first Deadpool.
Yeah.
And we're going to go be seeing the second Deadpool, which will already be out in theaters by the time this podcast comes out. And I will have already enjoyed it. But the marketing for this has been incredible. And from the way that they seem to understand, once again, I think that eye candy mixed with substance, very much so. So if you didn't see the Celine Dion video associated with Deadpool, you need to right now go and watch that online. But also all the way back, the way that they take pop culture and have fun with it. So last November or December, they were already putting videos out. One was where Deadpool was dressed up like the painter, Bob Ross.
Bob Ross,
How can I forget? So Deadpool was dressed up like Bob Ross and doing this Bob Ross-esque sort of style promo. And it's just very much on their brand, but it tickles our nostalgia bone a little bit by bringing us back to those times. I think the choice of Celine Dion for the soundtrack was very intentional because she has done some iconic movies, Titanic and other big blockbusters. Anyways, take a look. Definitely, they understand social. They understand how you connect with an audience through this content and are interacting really beautifully.
Awesome. So my hero is actually somebody that's extremely popular, but they're doing something different these days that's sort of opened up my eyes. And I was a little bit reticent at first. just because, I feel like he's going all over the place and sort of trying new things all the time. But at the same time, that's part of what, social is about. So it's Casey Neistat's new podcast with his wife. And, it's called Couples Therapy. And what I really appreciate about it, and it's sort of, it's a little bit like us, we're starting a podcast together, we're married. But what I really appreciated more about it, it's not that I wanted to hear more about Casey because he's basically out there all the time, is that, his wife has gotten a lot of flack online because she's not as, she's not like Casey. She just does not,
she's not as social.
She's not as social, right? But the podcast has really sort of like given her a little bit more of a voice and sort of explain how she feels and how she's dealing with this and what she's, dealing with in terms of all this attention around their lives and their kids and their married life. And it sort of opened up a little bit more their lives without putting them on the screen, which I think is one of the things that they get, Casey's fine with it, but he sort of, has, split off his family life from his online life in terms of video. And, this gives another vehicle for us to sort of understand what they're dealing with and, what their lives are doing. And also she's a rock star entrepreneur, right? She was already successful on her own, doing her own stuff. And then, Casey's, super encouraging of her. And again, Casey is somebody that I've been following for many years, before he went super viral. But, you see how hard of a personality he is to deal with. Because I'm putting myself in her shoes and I would have killed him a couple of times.
Oh yeah, Candice is like a saint. That's what I always thought. I was like, how, she was pretty quiet in the background videos, or kind of, she didn't shy away from the camera, but she never seemed to be super engaged with the camera, which I respected. But I also thought, man, she has got to have some level of patience that is absolutely.
Yeah. So anyways, that's my hero is Couples Therapy and podcast, which is great. It's all over the place. So definitely look for it. So thank you very much, String. Thanks for coming to our podcast. And if you're, listening to this and you enjoy, please go on whatever podcatcher you're using, iTunes, and give us a rating and a comment. And share. Tweet at us at TrulySocial on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And String, where can people follow you?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can see me watching you eat fried chicken on my Instagram. I'm String Story everywhere.
Awesome.
String Story.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. We really hope you enjoyed this week's topic.
If you did enjoy it, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet us at TrulySocial, at Miss Rogue, GUE, and or at Carlos Pacheco, that's CarlosPache_CO, with your own insights. If you did not enjoy it, tell us why too. We do love feedback. And if you want to argue one of our points, bring it.
Also, please go over to iTunes or whatever podcatcher you use and give us a rating and review, and pass this along to anyone you think would enjoy it.
We're also looking for guests to join us in future conversations. So if you have something you'd like to discuss or an alternative viewpoint you want to challenge us with, please do drop us a line. You can tweet us or email us at podcast@trulysocial.ca.
Until next time,
TTYS.